You know this was Sesame Street from the 80s. This dude was selling Ernie and 8 in front of our innocent childish eyes. I've seen the future, Marty. 30 years from now, all of the people who lived through the great 80s decade will wish they could travel back in time and live through it all again. As I become older, the more I understand these two men. The Uber of my generation. I grew up in an era where you had to go to Channel 3 to play video games. You know you failed if your teacher handed your paper back like this. Yep, certainly did. The only reason to even look at it is to see just how badly did you fail. When I was a kid, I used to think that these were special seats for sitting in the back of the truck. Well, they were. If you know, you know. Today in 1987, your school served you this for lunch, and you were excited about it. We had no idea how good we had it, and no clue that we were the last ones. That is very true. Pain heals, chicks dig scars, and glory lasts forever. I told that teaching lady, the only crayons I need are red, white, and blue. Not a cell phone in sight, just people living in the moment. I will hit you so hard that words describing the impact will appear out of thin air. I'm offended. You can't say that. No, I can. I did. And I probably will again. Not everyone will get this. Hot sun on an old school metal slide. We knew it would hurt, but that didn't stop us. At some point in your childhood, you and your friends went outside to play together for the last time, and none of you knew it. Quick fact, if you grew up spending these, then you're old. Although officially it's called the SNAP program today, this is why most people still call it food stamps. Who remembers making textbook covers from grocery bags in the late 70s and 80s? I can't remember if we did this or not. I do remember folding up book covers, but I can't remember if it was out of paper bags. How about you guys? Me in the 80s. Me now. I'd like to have the car now, but I'd be using the door. I can taste this picture. Yep. Hose water was always the best water in the summer. Growing up, we didn't have lettuce. We had chips. We grew lettuce in the garden, but I didn't like lettuce. I liked turkey better, but if I was going to have a sandwich like this, the best was beef bologna with a slice of cheese, plain chips, and mustard. Fried beef bologna was also great for breakfast. Casually eating popcorn out of the bowl me and all my siblings have projectile vomited in throughout our childhood. We all know exactly what this person's talking about, and I'd say the majority of us still have this bowl. Everyone wanted Doc's DeLorean, but I wanted Marty's Toyota. This is true, but there's one important distinction that has to be made. When speaking about the DeLorean, are you talking about it as a really cool movie prop car, or the DeLorean time machine that actually functions? If it was a real time machine, obviously everyone wants the DeLorean. However, if it's a choice between the DeLorean movie prop car and Marty's Toyota, today I would take Marty's Toyota hands down. I seriously doubt a DeLorean could actually make it down my dirt road here. If you can smell this picture, you're old. Yep. Sorry guys, but it's true. Kids today will never know about the old 96er. Anybody want to calculate what that would cost these days? Especially at a restaurant? The world is changing very fast. 1980, 2024. Very sad, too. Future generations will never know about this unique relationship. Yep. When you'd buy blank tapes, you'd usually get an extra sticker or two. But if you didn't have any, masking tape was the solution. That moment you find out that Dolph Lundgren, I'm sure I butchered that, is exponentially more qualified to be called a scientist than Bill Nye. Almost anyone is exponentially more qualified to be called a scientist than Bill Nye. There's that one newer guy. I can't remember his name offhand, but I'll throw it up on the screen here. I think he's Bill Nye's replacement. Never canceled a concert because they lost their voice. That's very true. Can't argue with that. Can we go to the playground now? Yeah, but hang on a minute. Daddy's got to finish his McMarlboro first. Man, whoever this is, I got the whole collection. The ashtray's crooked, though. If someone from 1980 suddenly woke up in 2024, what would surprise them the most? I don't think that we can begin to really answer this question, because it's everything. We live in a whole different world today, and not in a good way. Cartoons then, cartoons now. Just a sad fact. Before the internet, some dude in middle school would tell you that a kid from a TV commercial exploded from eating Pop Rocks with Coke, and you just go around believing it for the next 20 years. Them, self-driving semi-trucks are the future. What could possibly go wrong? What I'm picturing. Yep. Need to settle a massive debate. What are these called? I know a lot of people call them different things, but I always just call them popsicles. What'd you guys call them? There's people today that would look at this and say it was racist. Do you guys think you had a better childhood without cell phones, Facebook, and tablets that all the teens have today? Absolutely. And on many different levels. From 1978 to 1982, Williams played the alien Mork in the classic and cherished by all, Mork and Mindy. Even the casting director knew he was perfect for the role upon their first meeting. He said Williams was the only real alien to audition for the part. His commitment to the character was nothing short of perfect. Filters back in the 80s. Here's a classic. These were the best. The grape and orange ones were pretty good. The rest of them, so-so. Ever just said it and ate the paper too? Yes. Get tired of trying to scratch the paper off. Just some extra fiber. Choose 5 80s movies. The rest will perish. This is actually a pretty difficult one. But if I had to choose 5 from this list, I'd go with Back to the Future, Short Circuit, Ghostbusters, Goonies, and the original Top Gun. What 5 movies would you guys choose? The moment when they're playing 80s music on the oldies station. Yep, sad times. Who remembers the temporary buildings at school that were up for decades? Yep, we've had these in some past episodes. At the schools I went to, they called them portable classrooms. But they were never portable. Once they brought them in, they were a permanent part of the school. Welcome to 2024. Kurt is now 79 years old. Have a nice day. A fictional character's unaliving that you have not gotten over. I guess the one that I would pick is Old Yeller. What one is stuck with you guys? How many of you guys heard about this? TikTok has people putting McDonald's ice cream into their Cokes and acting surprised that it's delicious. And I don't know if it's a joke or if Gen Z really thinks they invented Coke floats. I hadn't heard about this, but I seriously doubt it's a joke. I'm sure that they think they invented something that nobody else knew. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would always make root beer floats. His favorite root beer was A&W. Michael J. Fox says being famous was tougher in the 80s. You had to be talented. That is a burn that only a Gen Xer could do. Although technically, he was right at the very end of the boomers. Only the real ones understand. Yep. And if you add some eggs in there, you could have French toast. Listen to one cassette tape, play one video game, watch one movie. I would listen to Beverly Hills Cop. I would play Super Mario Brothers. And I'd watch Back to the Future. Actually, I'd watch any of those. They're all great movies. I realize we have technology, but I'm going to keep writing my grocery list on the back of old electric bill envelopes, like the trash rat that I am. Well, this is no longer true for me. Back when I got injured a few years ago, I started using my cell phone as a notepad to write down basically everything. Because if I didn't have it with me at all times, when I would remember something, if I didn't write it down right then, I'd forget it again. And sometimes I'd still forget what I was going to write down by the time I got my phone on my pocket and got the notepad app open. 2024. I can't get my phone to keep it charged through the day. 1960s. Batteries lasted 3 years. I remember my dad telling me that when he was a kid, Grandpa had an AM radio, and it had a large external battery. Every once in a while, after they had used the oven, which was wood-fired back then, when it was still just warm, Grandpa would take the battery and put it in the oven to recharge it. Then he'd take it out, hook it back up to the radio, and it would work again until he needed to do it the next time. How many of you guys have ever heard of anything like that? Just because technology is new does not mean it's better. Her, if you could ask for anything, what would it be? Me. Hey guys, are you telling me that the aircraft carrier actually would float? I mean, he's in a swimming pool, right? If that thing actually floats, that's something I never knew before. That just makes it that much cooler. Now all you need is a radio-controlled fighter jet that you could take off and land back on the carrier. Your time on Earth is limited. Don't try to age with grace. Age with mischief, audacity, and a good story to tell. And sometimes you have to weigh the risks and put yourself out there anyway. Because as they say, you'll always miss 100% of the shots that you never tried to take. When you ask your mom for McDonald's, and she says, "We got McDonald's at home," this is what she meant. This is true. I was watching the original Amityville Horror last night. A 5-bedroom house for $80,000. Me and the paranormal would have just had to find a way to get along. Whatever you all got going on at night, just keep it down. He's probably thinking about other women. Me. How does Andy reattach the poster to the wall in Shawshank Redemption? I'm at the age where this house doesn't scare me, but the thought of bringing groceries up those stairs does. I'd have to put in an escalator. Or just put a new driveway where you pull in up next to the house. I'm this old. Now what's with the colors of Taco Bell now? Just like different shades of purple. That doesn't even make sense. You know you're getting old when it feels like the morning after, but there was no night before. I was today years old when I found out if you're not there, you're square, because you're not around. Time Magazine, 1956, teaching lead dispenser safety in the classroom, back when kids were still taught lead dispenser safety instead of being taught to be scared of them. I know this particular meme is actually for all you boomers, but it still holds true for Gen X nonetheless. And now, there might possibly still be some hope yet. Public school students in Tennessee could soon be required to take lead dispenser safety courses. I just wanted to share at least this one little piece of good news. Can you guess this movie? Drop your answers in the comments. Soda and glass bottles tasted the best. If you agree with this statement, hit that like button. The keys are in the ignition. You can only take one. Which one do you take? Well, it's as I mentioned in past episodes. If the DeLorean is the actual time machine, obviously everyone's going to choose that. However, for the sake of this meme, we're going to assume that the DeLorean is just a movie prop car. So with that in mind, what car would you choose? I'll be honest, I still like the DeLorean. However, if I had to pick one, I'd go with the '69 Charger. The kids who are eating Tide Pods are now old enough to drive. And just think, you're driving next to them on the interstate. One of the best 80s films ever made. Have you guys heard that Lethal Weapon 5 is supposed to come out sometime in 2024? I saw something about it recently, but didn't look into the details to see if there was any specific dates. Autocorrect makes me say things I did in Nintendo. It's very true. I was today years old when I found out when someone says, "Hold your horses," they're telling me to be stable. How many of you guys knew this? Like if you know this place. True fans will share it in the comments below. Oh, so you're the one that took all our jobs. Those and a lot more. Every time you don't tip, a child gets a mullet. Help children like these. Don't give a tip. Help make mullets great again. If you are under a certain age, let me assure you this apple pie was served at the surface temperature of the planet Mercury. Yep, and they were deep fried too. Me remembering a time when I didn't have to grunt every time I sat down or stood up. Yeah, no kidding. Or when it takes you 5 minutes before you can fully stand straight and walk normally. Lies. I agree. None of those ever open like they're supposed to. Officially reached the age where I can't tell if I sustained an injury or that's just how I am now. Yes. And worse yet, if it is an injury, you can't figure out how you did it. The long-forgotten Glade plugins of the 90s. I guarantee you, there are people who still have these things plugged into a wall for the last 30 years. The sleeping bag my parents sent me to people's houses with at 7 years old. I'm so glad we got to grow up with Robin Williams. What's your guys' favorite Robin Williams movie? Whether it was a regular movie or where he was doing the voice for an animation. Is 9 p.m. good for you? Me. I told my kids if you can beat this game, I'll buy you a PS5 right now. I should have got double points for that one. The biggest fear of childhood. People who don't reply until days later. Why? It's a relatively very new phenomenon that basically anyone in your life gets access to you at all times. It was only 20 years ago that if you left the house for the day, you were actually gone. You'd return messages when you came back hours or even days later. Basically, I prefer this sometimes. Except for a very few people, I prefer this too. Old McDonald's was a fun playland. New McDonald's looks like a prison. I've stated this exact same thing on past videos. The new McDonald's is what a fast food restaurant would look like if it was in a prison. And it looks the same from the outside too. Never-ending story when I was a kid. Never-ending story as an adult. Yeah, but they forgot the worst part. Taxes and bills. I'm coming dangerously close to the age where I start doing puzzles on the dining room table for recreation. When the Sears family photo is right before the Whitesnake concert. Me. I'm gonna start eating healthy. Also me all weekend. Photos of Jake Paul before and after his fight with Mike Tyson. I just thought this one was funny. This is one of the better Paul Tyson memes that I've seen lately. Back in the 90s, you could eat all of this for only $4.25. Some of you probably know better than I do. I haven't been to Taco Bell in a long time. That'd probably cost you almost $30 right now. Which game would you play first? Speaking of the Paul Tyson fight, I'm $400 VCR old. You could always put it on layaway or buy it from Montgomery Ward's on credit. If you know what this is, I'm sorry. I do know what it is. I certainly hope I never need any. I did just have to go to the dentist the other day because I've had a tooth that's bothering me. And not only did I find out I have to have that one pulled, but I've also got some other problems. It's always something. 7-year-old me looking at my mom through the McDonald's play place window when she's saying time to leave. That is a pretty good description. I swear, cats are a liquid. A mom helping her kids beat a hard level in Super Mario Land, 1990s. When I fell, nothing would happen to me. I wasn't delicate like you kids. In October of 1994, Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, The Shawshank Redemption, and Jurassic Park were all in theaters at the same time. I wonder if there was anyone that was able to see all 4 movies in one night. Life before the internet. Hey kid, here's some identification you'll need for the rest of your life, but you're not allowed to laminate it. We went ahead and printed it on gas station toilet paper for you. Why is this true? This is ridiculous. I'll be honest, back years ago, I actually did laminate mine, because I didn't notice on the card where it said you're not supposed to. However, I've never had a problem with anyone accepting it. Now, your mileage may vary, so don't take that as advice or anything. A 50-year-old airplane in my head. A 50-year-old plane in real life. Nope, I refuse to believe that. It doesn't matter that it's true. I'm pull-down maps old. Yep, back when I had one in every classroom. Here's a question. How many of you guys still keep updated road atlases? Drop it in the comments. Me, when you realize you're officially the old person that hates teenagers in public places. You know what, though? I think we have a right to be. Look how most of this younger generation acts. And even how they treat adults and even the elderly. When we were kids, we might have did some stupid things. But we still had respect for our elders. Whether they were our parents, teachers, or just people working in stores and places that we went to. These days, for a large portion of today's generation, they have no respect for anyone. Our parents used to really drop us off at the skating rink with money and leave. Breaking. Tesla announces new cyberbus. Yeah, that is true. The 1980s Pac-Man phone. Far cooler than an iPhone.
Can't believe it, it's my first blind date.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Really? Woo! You guys meet? Greg, Janice?
We sure did.
Great. We've got chemistry here. You feel it?
I felt it.
All right, Janice.
I'm driving a stick shift. We're on a hill. Do you really want to be close enough to read this? No, people shouldn't be that close, for sure. But if you know how to drive a stick shift, being on a hill isn't really an issue. Unless you have a problem with your clutch. My generation will start a revolution. Your generation can't even start a lawnmower. These days, even if you had a teenager out there cutting your yard, it wouldn't surprise me if you wouldn't be arrested for child labor and child endangerment and who knows what else. It's been a long time since I slammed the phone down good and hard. I seen somebody had a comment on this posting. They said they had a phone that looked identical to this one and showed a picture of it. And I think they said it was their grandkids came over and saw the phone and asked them how did they send text messages on it. You just had to put your finger in the right hole and rotate the dial around the correct number of times depending on what letter you wanted. But the biggest problem was there was no LCD screen. So you just had to remember what you already typed and hope that you got it right. Sometimes you'd forget letters, or you just wouldn't get the right one put in. That's when they first invented autocorrect, to try to help with that problem. If you guys remember doing this, hit that like button. What you thought joining the resistance would look like. what it actually looks like. This is true. This was my Stanley Cup. I didn't have that particular one, but I definitely remember that style of water bottle. Free to good home. Just a warning, they get big. Car drove through brick wall. The neighbor put this out. They definitely must be Gen X. That's a pretty good one. The best window tint ever. I need something robust, but precise. You're all set to go. A little good news. Wyoming 5th graders learn marksmanship using school gym for lead dispenser range. 5th graders of Wyoming Hot Springs County School District No. 1 took marksmanship courses in early February using pellet dispensers in a makeshift pellet range in their school gym. I know we had that article about Tennessee in the last episode. This is the kind of things that schools should be teaching. This is very true. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse. These are the role models we had growing up in the 80s. And they may look a little weird, but I'd rather have my kids look up to them than Miley Cyrus any day. Her and Taylor Swift and all these other idols they've created these days. In my day, we had to stand to play video games. I know it's tragic. The Wi-Fi isn't working. But let me tell you a story of catastrophic proportions from my childhood. Yep, this is true. Having a 2 VCR setup meant you have a copy of every movie you rented from Blockbuster. Some of y'all never had walls like this, and it shows. I'm pretty sure Inspector Gadget is right around the corner. If every computer crashed and the internet was gone, people my age would be the only ones who could cope. I believe this to be true. You can have a disruption these days in the internet or even just cell phones, and it don't take but a few minutes before people start to lose their mind. Don't get me wrong, the internet is nice and all. I mean, here we are all watching YouTube. But, if we're honest, the days before the internet, social media, and all this other stuff was just a better time. And we didn't spend half our lives staring at a screen. When I was a kid, this was my mobile phone. I'm not ashamed to admit, my knowledge of opera begins and ends with a handful of Bugs Bunny cartoons. I'd say that's true for most of us. Did we totally wipe out the ring around the collar in the 80s? I never hear about it anymore. That's a good question. Don't call yourself a fan of rock music if you don't know Thid Band. Thid Band? Supposed to be this band. I don't know what's going down, but it just got real. This is me in my room as a teenager, according to my mother. Yep, how many of you guys heard? Go clean up your room. It looks like a pigsty. I'm still kind of mad that they never actually told us how to get to Sesame Street. I never actually thought about it, but that's a valid point. I still don't think our parents realized how far we rode our bikes in the 80s and 90s. Family horrified by polite notice restaurant staff hands out. We request any customers dining in with young children to keep noise at a reasonable level and to not let children run around the restaurant. It is dangerous as our staff is often walking around with hot food. Additionally, it is inconsiderate to the other diners. In order to look after both our staff and customers, we reserve the right to refuse service. This is a restaurant that I would go eat at. And they are absolutely 100% right. It's ridiculous these days how many parents let their children act, scream, and run wild in public. If we'd done that back in the day, we wouldn't have sat down for the rest of the day. And rightly so. This is one of the major problems with this generation today. They're not corrected for anything. And therefore, very many of them have no respect for anyone or anything. They are a completely spoiled generation, expecting their parents and the government to hand them everything on a silver platter. Some people may not agree with this, but that's okay. The current state of the younger generations speaks for itself. You only get two for the rest of your life. First one I'd pick is Tetris, because it's a game that never actually ends, so you can always beat your high score. And for the second one, I'd pick Mike Tyson Punch-Out. That way you have something to play to take out your frustration every time you lost on Tetris. Kids today have cool cars, and I object. Your first car needs to be an '84 Geo Metro with a cracked windshield, an 8-track player stuck on smooth jazz, a door that won't open, sparks flying off the tailpipe, and an ignition that only turns if you pray 5 times. I agree, a kid's first car should never be a new car. For one, they're gonna wreck it. Whether it's light damage or whatever, they're gonna hit something. And all that'll do is just raise the insurance prices even that much more. And number two, if they have an old car, if they want to continue to drive, they'll have to become mechanically inclined to be able to fix some of the problems with the car as they come along. Teach them to buy the parts so they can repair it themselves, and that way they can save more of their money to do other things instead of paying a mechanic. And whenever they hit something, they get to learn a little bit about body and paintwork. And if they wreck it too bad, then you scrap it and buy another cheap car. Save a lot of money on monthly payments and insurance. This can't be the same 90 degrees I used to run around outside in as a child. I'll tell you, it's not the same. It is much hotter in recent years than what it used to be when we were younger. And it's not just because we're getting older. It's not even just the heat today. When we were kids, 80 degrees was just nice weather to go out and run around and play all day outside. These days, it could be 65 or 70 degrees in the early spring, and you'd be out there for just a couple hours and come back with a bad sunburn. In my opinion, the amount of radiation that's getting through the atmosphere is just a lot higher than it used to be. Don't get me wrong, it's not because of climate change. It's because of what the billionaires and the government has done. The Crocs of the 80s. I'll be honest, I wear Crocs, but I don't buy the ones that have the holes in them. I think that kind of defeats the purpose. If you don't know, they do make Crocs that are a solid shoe with no holes, but they're hard to find. I don't have many stores near me, so the only place I was ever able to find them was on Amazon. This is what a Big Mac looked like when I was growing up. Yeah, and these days, we know it's a whole lot better for you than the stuff you could buy at McDonald's. 2024. School will be closed due to high winds. 1984. Tornado in progress. Go in the hall and put a book over your head. Also, we're having pizza for lunch. That's pretty much exactly how it went. Who misses Saturday mornings like this? I think we all had that clock. I also had that exact Garfield cup and the Raisin Man. What movie am I watching? Wrong answers only. That's E.T. He's making a collect call to call home. My wife left me in charge of getting the new shower curtain. I think this is fair. That's a pretty good choice. I bet most of you remember this movie. What main character is not shown here? Drop it in the comments. Yeah, for all the parents that was offended by that polite notice that restaurant put out earlier, someone's child is running around obnoxiously in a restaurant. The voice in my head. Sweep the leg. Me and my childhood without any reason. Be honest, how many of you knew that Smurfette was not actually a real Smurf? She was created by Gargamel in an attempt to find the Smurf's village. It was Papa Smurf who performed a spell on her, thus making her a real Smurf. She also originally had black hair. I actually didn't know this until not too long ago. There was actually some of you guys that told me about it in the comments on past episodes. But here's a question. If Gargamel could make Smurfs, why did he keep trying to find the Smurf village? He could have just made his own. Saved himself all the trouble. Them. Don't be dramatic this summer. Me.
I'm melting! Melting! Oh, what a world! What a world!
We really used to print out 4 pages from MapQuest and travel like pirates. I still think it's funny that the youngest generations is that the only connection they have to paper maps is because that's what they saw Jack Sparrow use in the movie. Life before microwave popcorn. I still use one of these. A Roadrunner's maximum speed is 20 miles per hour. An average coyote can run at 42 miles per hour. Everything in our childhood was a lie. That doesn't look anything like the Roadrunner, and they don't sound like the Roadrunner either. First time I ever saw one of these in real life was when I moved here to South Missouri. You've heard of Elf on a Shelf. Now get ready for, if you know who this is, or at least where he's from, drop it in the comments. When you see it, say, got it. The only one missing is the teacher. Running through the sprinklers, chasing down the ice cream truck, riding bikes with friends around the neighborhood, swinging so high that poles lifted up out of the ground, picking blueberries, catching fireflies. No internet, no cell phones, no social media. We headed home when the streetlights came on. Those were the summers of my childhood. How lucky I was to have grown up before technology took over the world. Yeah, technology's definitely taken over the world, in more ways than most people even realize. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. If you like this video, click on one of these to watch more. I thank you all for watching. Take care, stay safe. This is Akorn, over and out.